Well, Mzwandile Mbeje, SABC News political editor, sat down with the former EFF MP, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, and he joins us this afternoon to take us through that interview. Good afternoon, Mzwandile. Thank you very much for joining us on The Full View.
A very good afternoon to you, Mfundo, and the viewers.
No, it's a pleasure to have you with us. So it's February now, as early as August, I believe, when Floyd Shivambu tendered his resignation. Many had started to speculate that probably Dr. Ndlozi would be next to leave the EFF, but it didn't happen. And then now, finally, he has decided to put the EFF behind him, but not only that, take the nation into his confidence and give us the reasons. Just take us through some of the reasons he furnished for his decision now to leave the EFF.
Yeah, well, it was quite interesting, and because we ended up playing in the realm of speculation because there was no explanation, even if we asked from the leadership of the EFF, so what was happening. So it was very difficult, and then we then played in the realm of speculation. But of course, that opportunity then came, because where I think it became clear that all was not well was when he then did not attend the conference, the National People's Assembly. So then it did then tell you that something is not going right. So clearly, so we wanted to know what was happening. So he finally confirmed that he actually had been suspended before the conference started. I think about 6 weeks before the conference started. So he was suspended, and the reasons was that there was some sort of an intelligence report that pointed to him perhaps working for MK or towards MK. I don't know whether it was based on the fact that they have friendly or brotherly relations with Floyd Shivambu. So things that perhaps could have, I guess, from his point of view, led to the leadership of his party then suspending him. But I think, for me, Mfundo, what is perhaps, and when I even engaged with him, perhaps something which touched him a bit more was that despite all of that, remember, an investigation had to be conducted. Somehow that came to naught. So, and then that gave him so many ideas, and he then wondered what exactly was the reason why he had been...
So they had taken the decision as the leadership that they'd only deal with that matter beyond the NPA.
Yes.
And beyond that, it was never dealt with. They didn't come back to him.
In fact, beyond the NPA, some of the public pronouncements of the leadership, particularly the leader of the party, when asked about this matter, he would say, you guys have the numbers of him. You can find out from him what is happening. So as far as they were concerned, so the new leadership had been elected, his matter was closed. So in his view, then he felt, well, basically, this party that I belong to has effectively disowned me. So if I am disowned, so what is the point of me staying here? So there's quite a lot of factors that led to then his final decision.
He sounded a bit aggrieved by just the process that was followed or not followed, insofar as affording him the right to a hearing where he could actually present his own version of what had happened. But I also heard in that interview where he went to state that for him, he didn't feel it was his place to actually state to the party the intentions of Floyd Shivambu to leave.
Yes, I mean, he even confirmed in the interview to say the manner in which he was suspended was unconventional. It basically didn't follow the prescripts of what the EFF constitution would have said. So and then he said, when Floyd then comes and then indicates to him that, well, this is what he wants to do, and the best he could do was, okay, because we are at this position now, so you would have to take the leadership into confidence. And then obviously that did happen. So, but I guess the leadership, from his point of view, may have felt differently. Clearly, we wouldn't be privy to some of the dynamics and the internal machinations within the party. So that somehow led to this kind of decision.
And then he also attempted in that interview to almost share his reasons as to why perhaps the poor showing in the May elections last year, going on to speak about the entanglement with the MK party, saying perhaps that is what was at the heart of it. It was a miscalculation according to him. Just talk us through his reasoning around that entanglement of sorts with the MK party.
I mean, one thing that he said was that he was opposed from the first, from the word go, in terms of working with I think former president or the MK, because in his view he could see that I mean, it would somehow compromise them, because you look what's happening on the ground. You're actually going for the same market. So clearly, once you start now entangling yourself into that situation, you may dilute whatever you have.
But it started with the Tea Party, and at the Tea Party, or that invitation to go to tea, there was no MK at the time. So would one say in the space of politics that it was miscalculation on the part of Julius Malema? Because some would have said it would have been a calculated move on his part to say, I can see that the former president still wields a level of influence, and I do believe that if he were to leave the ANC, he would leave with a sizable amount of voters.
I think maybe the Tea Party may then end up forming part of the processes, but I would think, as you say, there was no MK at the time, so, and the situation then perhaps needed some people who would be able to intervene, because I think from Malema's version, which I think he has been repeating it quite often, that I did not want to see what happened. I mean, what followed after that. So somehow he felt vindicated. It said, as a leader, so I felt, let me engage with the former president. So what perhaps could have happened was that that kind of engagement, Mfundo, may have set some sort of a tone in terms of how they start to relate going forward.
He wanted them to endorse, because Malema has also stated that for him he hoped that the former president would have endorsed the EFF closer to the election.
Because of the influence, remember? Because the former president had huge influence. So then what he wanted, once those processes had started of then engaging, remember, former president told them about his intention to perhaps get the black parties united. So that's where Malema said, well, there is already an entity that is established like the EFF, so the best you could do is to endorse so that we become bigger. But obviously they had a different, I think former President Zuma had a different idea to that. So, but that working together, and even the leadership of the EFF saying we shouldn't attack each other. I mean, sometimes those would go out in public and basically berate Zuma, and then he would be called to order to say, at this juncture, we are working together as an MK, so are of the same mind. So he feels all those public sentiments and statements so compromised the EFF. That's why it ended up losing. But of course, this is not the only reason. So these are part of the factors and the processes that somehow compromise the EFF going forward.
And then just in closing, where to now for him?
Well, he's made it clear that party politics for now is taking a break. I don't know whether it's a permanent break or it's a break for a shortened period of time. He's focusing on academia. You know, at his young age, he achieved the doctorate, so he's a doctor, so which means he's very efficient when it comes to the academic work. But what he likes most is the civil work, the civil society work. He even mentioned the example of the kind of work that AfriForum is doing, saying for black people and the marginalized in the main, they don't have that kind of an organization that will really champion their needs, particularly those who feel their voice is not really heard.
But he was very cryptic there, I must say, because he said South Africa is not a one-party state, meaning there is a possibility that he could join another party, because he said they were not banned. But Mzwandile, thank you very much, as always, for joining us on The Full View. That's Mzwandile Mbeje, SABC News political editor there, speaking to us following that one-on-one exclusive with Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi.